Camera, lens. Grab it, shoot it. We are going to create some awesome content. There's a lot we need to discuss today. Roll intro. This is a really awesome effect, but it can be a little bit hard to understand, especially if you're new to using the pen tool and masking in Photoshop. But don't worry, I'm going to take you through it every step of the way. There are a few things that you'll need to consider in order for you to achieve the skin ripping effect, but I'll go through that in just a second. The first thing you'll need to invest in is going to be a light shirt that you can cut holes into. This is going to help you with the ripping effect. So take some scissors, cut out holes in the shirt, either in front or at the back, depending on the look you want to achieve, and we'll move on to the next step. Now go ahead, take two images, one where you pull the edges of the shirt outward, and another pic where you do the same effect, but this time without a shirt on. That's going to look a little something like this. The most crucial part for achieving a realistic look is definitely going to be your shadows. Shadows give you depth of field, making the effect stand out and making it much more realistic. But you'll see what I mean while we edit the images. Right, so I think I covered everything. Go out, shoot both images, and let's add some Photoshop sprinkling dust. So the first thing you'll need to do is cut out this part of the shirt that I'm basically ripping open, and I'm going to do that by selecting the lasso tool. Zoom in a bit here. And you can simply start cutting everything out. I'm going to fast forward this a bit so that you don't look at me cutting out a shirt for more than 5 minutes. Okay, so I made my selection. I'm going to try and use this selection. I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but I'm going to definitely try. The only thing I'm concerned about is the piece of the shirt over here. This might not give me the same effect, but other than that, it's just the way my hand is placed on the actual pic. So I need to interpret that. So let's go ahead and move this over. What I usually do is go over to select and mask. I'll just select that part, go over here to output and click new layer with layer mask. Select that and click OK. Once you did that, you can just right click on the new background copy, go over to duplicate layer and select the photo you'd like to use. Select OK. Now over here, I'm going to need to move it around. You can do that by selecting Ctrl plus T on your keyboard or Command plus T to select the image and move it around the screen. Okay, so that is it. I'm going to adjust the image with the warp tool. You can select that by right clicking on the selected image and selecting warp. Over here I'm just going to move this around a little. Just so that this part of my back is aligned accordingly. Right, now the other issue I have is the placement of my hand. It's definitely not the same placement I used in my previous photo, so I'm going to need to make some adjustments regarding that. Whenever you take the picture, try and keep your hand exactly the same as it was before. Okay, so that worked out perfectly. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard to make that selection. So the next thing I want to do is definitely adjust the position of the image here so that it looks like I'm actually pulling the part of my skin away from my back. Just go over to opacity, bring that down a little bit so that I can see my whole hand. I'm going to select the eraser tool and I'm just going to erase the part. Just going to erase the part where my hand should be. great, I think that works perfect. Let's up the opacity again, and as you can see now, my whole hand is in the image. That looks perfect. That looks great. I think that's really realistic. But anyway, let's carry on and finishing the tutorial. With my eraser tool selected, I'm going to hit right click and make sure that the fade is enabled, or the soft round. Select that. I'm just going to increase the size of my eraser and just start erasing all these sharp edges from the shirt. Okay, great. I'm not really happy as to where this part is at the moment, so I'm just going to hit Control T again on my keyboard, select the warp tool, and I'm just going to adjust the image so that it fits a bit better the way I like it. Almost like there seems to be fine, and then I'm going to just erase this part a little bit more, because that really doesn't work for me. Okay, that looks a bit better. The next thing I want to do is add some shadows. Remember earlier in the video I said that shadows is going to be extremely important when it comes to this effect. So when I have a look at my previous image, you'll see that there's already some shadows beneath my fingers. I'm going to make use of that when I add this effect. So the only thing I need to do here is just select the eraser tool again, and I'm going to just erase a little bit more than I actually should, just so that I can get that shadows to show a little bit better. After you've done that, and after you have played with your shadows and you're happy with the results, the next step would be to play around with the colors. Now this might be a bit difficult, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, so bear with me, pause the video if you struggle, and let's carry on and adjust those colors so that the blue shirt matches my skin tone. I'm going to want to select the blue parts only. I can do that by heading over here to the bottom. That's going to be your quick mask, or edit in quick mask mode. Select that, and once you've selected it, go over to your paintbrush and you can start selecting the blue of that shirt. Okay, so once you've selected the whole shirt, simply click the quick selection mask tool again, and that will make a selection. Head over to your lasso tool, select the lasso tool. To make that selection, simply right click and select inverse. From here you can click on select mask. You'll see that everything's just there. Don't need to use that at all. The next thing you can do is just head over to image, adjustments, and match color. From here you're going to get a lot of options. The only thing you need to do is select source, make sure that it's the image you want to use, so the image that you're basically editing on now. Select the layer, which is not the background copy because that's my shirt. Select the normal background. Immediately it's going to select that color, and you can just simply play around with the color intensity, the luminance, and the fade. Okay, so in my case, a color intensity of 61, luminance of 102, and fade of 0 is going to work perfect. I'm going to select OK to make that selection. Zoom out, deselect the whole mask, and just make sure that I didn't miss any parts where there's still a little blue coming through. can simply just erase those parts if you want to. I think that looks perfect. The next step is to really bring those colors together. What I want to do is select Control plus B or Command and B to bring out the color balance tool. Play around with your cyan, your magenta, and your yellows and blues. You can head over to highlights as well to adjust some of the highlights to fit closely together. Once you've played around with that, you can always select image adjustments and curves just to play around with those settings, just to make sure that everything that you've erased and selected is smooth and clear. So I can just go over this again, select OK for now, go over this again and just erase the finer details. I want to try and keep the shadows. So that is it. I'm going to play around with the colors a little bit more just to give me that edge and that perfect color match. So I'm going to fast forward this bit so that you don't have to watch me do everything, but I'm going to use the same tools in order to achieve this look. That looks perfect. The last and final step is to basically add the other picture you want to use below the skin so that it looks like you're ripping apart a Spider-Man suit or something. You just head over to your logo that you downloaded or your image that you downloaded and used, or the image you've taken, whatever the case may be, and you can select this and move it over to your main image. You can move the image by selecting Ctrl plus X. Head over to your main image and press Ctrl plus V. I'm going to hit Ctrl T to resize this image. And while I'm resizing, for me to eliminate any warping effect, just hold down Shift while you resize. That looks perfect. I'm going to make the necessary adjustments. Play around with the opacity just so I get the position the way I like it. And then the next thing would be to also play around with the warp for this image. So right click, select warp, and you can move it around, give it a little bit of a bend. Just so that fits in perfectly. Great, I think that's perfect. Select this image by pressing enter. Right, so move it down below the background copy. You'll see that there's still a few pieces that I missed, so I can just select my background copy again and erase those extra pieces. Make sure you keep the shadows because that's very important to achieve a realistic look. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to erase the extra parts of the image. Make sure you select the actual image that you moved over or that is going to be below the skin and start erasing the extra pieces of that image. And then for your final step, you can just add some minor shadows make sure you select a new layer or make a new layer. Head over to your paintbrush tool, make sure black is selected, and you can just add some shadows. Alright, I'm happy with the result. That looks perfect. I'm just going to adjust some color correction to make everything stand out. And there you have it. That's the skin wrapping effect. That's it for me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. The best part about it is that now you can go and create something interesting with old shirts, shoes and pants that you never wear anyway. Please leave a like and comment down below if you enjoyed this video and if you learned something new. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, be defined.